Oh, they're pretty famous people. Oh. I
Okay. While I'm doing the presentation, I just want you guys to know we have a real high level view that we're going to be going through today. And for everybody that's here with me, I've given you guys a little packet, a handout, and that is also available if you go to the intranet. Over here under documents, it'll be under ADP user guides. If you click on that, there's the Workforce Now Manager's Guide. We are going to go ahead and put that out. We will be going through this. It's not going to be the exact same as the presentation that we're going to go through. The presentation, as I mentioned, is really high level, and this document is a lot more detailed. It's more step by step. So the idea is that hopefully you will have the remembering of what we went through today. And when you get to that step, you'll say, okay, yep, I remember going through this. And then the detailed information will be in here and available for you.
Is this the training?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
Yeah. For the ADP training?
Yes.
Perfect. And we do have a couple of extra slides that we'll be adding in, our sheets, I should say, that we just got completed. So we will be updating this as well. So you can check back in there if any questions.
And I got an extra one. Cool, thank you. Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, the ADP Workforce Manager is part of our ADP Workforce Now program that you guys have already been dealing with as we're going through the evals. So if you've already been in there using it, this is just the timekeeping piece. The names can get a little bit confusing. One is Workforce Now. That is what we're already using. That's really the personnel, the HR, payroll side of the programming. Workforce Manager is the timekeeping, attendance, and how we manage the workforce. Just to make it really clear today, I'm just going to call it timekeeping so that when we go in there, we're not confused about what we're looking at. One of the benefits of ADP is that we have a single sign-on, so we can access all systems with one login. Even though it is two different programs, we will just log in one place and you can go back between the two. You can log into Workforce Now under timekeeping and click on the dashboard. This is what we're primarily going to be looking at today as I go through this little demonstration. But we also have the ability to log into ADP on a mobile app. Employees will also be able to use all of these, or we have time clocks. So all of the functions that we're going to go through today, specifically for employees, they're going to be able to also do any of these functions on any one of these three methods. They can use any portal they would like to get it.
And you said this is Workforce Manager?
This is Workforce Manager. Now, if you're looking at an app on your phone, I'll show you that here in a second. This is what it looks like. But when you are going into ADP, right here, when you're going to sign in, there is a QR code right down here on the bottom of the screen every time you log in. Just to make sure you're getting the right app on your phone, just use that QR code. Pull out your camera. If you don't already have ADP loaded on your phone and you want to add it, pull out the camera, download that app, and then you'll have the right. It's the one we're going to be referring to.
Okay, so the ADP that I have on mine now is and it can do everything, because I've noticed I can look at my statements.
Yep.
And I can clock in and clock out.
Yep, all of that
so
will be there. That's what employees will be using as supervisors. Yep. Okay, we will get back to this. So this is going to be your home page. There's going to be most of what we go through today is going to be on the tiles right here. ADP is really great in that it allows you to get to the same place from many different routes. So most of the time, the way that I'm showing you, there's going to be a secondary or sometimes even third or fourth way to get to the same spot, but it makes everything easily accessible. You can always get back to this home as well by just clicking the little home icon up in the upper left-hand portion of your screen. And this is the menu right next to it that you can use for a lot of the same ones as well. For non-exempt employees, This is anyone who is an hourly employee. They're going to be clocking in and out. Now, when I say clocking in and out, that just means they're going to be recording their time that they start and the time that they end. And they can do that, again, multiple different ways. They can use that punch tile that's right there on the front dashboard that we looked at. They can also do it on their mobile. There's two options there. There's either a quick clock or the clock function within the ADP app. And they can also use their employee number or a biometric on the time clocks that are in some locations. We don't have time clocks in every location, but we do have them in quite a few where people are not always working from a desk location. We tried to be as thoughtful as we could about where they were being placed. Question that has come up for a lot of people is, if I use a biometric when I do the time clock, can I log out on my phone later? And yes, you can do any one of them. Just because you punch in on your phone doesn't mean you have to punch out on your phone. You can use them interchangeably. So whatever is most convenient is the one they should use. Yeah.
Can you explain what a biometric means?
Yeah. Biometric is just a little scanner that is on the top of the time clocks, and it's just for thumbprints. So employees can opt in to using biometrics. I will tell you though, if an employee opts in to use the biometric scanner, they have to use the biometric scanner. And all that means is if they're using a time clock, they have to use their thumbprint. They can't just punch in their number. That doesn't mean that they can't use the punch tile. It doesn't mean that they can't use their phone. It just means if they choose to use a time clock, it needs to be their thumbprint.
But that's only available where there's a time clock.
That's correct.
Can I ask what the time clock looks like?
You can ask, but I don't have a picture of it, so I don't know if I'm really
Like
good at
a
describing.
tablet
Yeah,
or?
it looks like a tablet.
Tablet, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, kind of like an Echo Show, if you know what those look like. It's kind of,
Sure.
Are all the time clocks in the positions that they're gonna be in, or will there be more added?
I'm not gonna say we can't add more. We do have them for the most part in the locations. There's one, maybe two that might have some adjusting, and we might move it to a different location, but for the most part, they are.
Okay.
In the locations. Hey, we're gonna talk a little bit about the different methods and what they look like. The punch tile is right on the screen. It's very easy to use. All you do is click that punch. It will tell you the time of your last punch and the date as well. And there's some other options that we're going to talk about a little bit later. And so it'll make a little more sense then. From your phone, we've got a couple options. The first and the easiest is the quick clock. The quick clock is exactly like it sounds. You click that button from your mobile app and it brings up the clock. It'll tell you all the same information. Your most recent punches will be listed down below. It's going to tell you the date and time that you will be punching in or punching out, whatever the case may be. And again, you can see there's a few extra features that we'll get into. The third way is you can actually sign in to the ADP app. And when you sign into the app, you'll get this, either the clock here or the clock button down there. Lots of different methods to get to the same thing. If you click on either one of these icons, it will pull up this clock. And again, you can see when the last time was that you punched in or out. So you can clock in. The last time you clocked out was 4 p.m. on December 6th. It tells you the current time. You can use any of those methods. That is one entry of just putting the time in by whatever time you get here and start working. The second entry is called time entry. To get to time entry, that's another tile right on your dashboard, and you'll simply click on the arrow on My Time Card. When you click on the arrow, it brings up all of the dates, and all you have to do is click on the cell for the date that you want. So if you're looking for November 7th and you want to clock in, you click on the cell and you can enter it in military time. You can enter it however you like to put it in. It will always default to AM. So if you just put in an 8 there, it will go in as 8 AM. You can put in 1600 if you're leaving at 4 PM. You can use whatever method you're most comfortable with. On the punch dial, it also gives you this option on the app where you can put in for time entry. You can go in and put the specific time that you want to go in. You can say if it's an in or out punch, and then also a few other options that we will come to later. So you just use whichever method is most convenient for you at the time. When you have your time card, all the times will be in there, but let's say you have a split shift or you want to add a different pay code for the same day. We're going to look at this little section of your time card a little more in depth. You wanted to add another line, so let's say there is a split shift. You would just simply click on that plus sign right there. The rule that you need to remember is that you can only have one pay code per line. So if you are going in and you have an appointment at some point in the middle of the day and you're clocking out, you'll have to add in another line for that other pay code, right? Transfers and grants are really just ways of using project codes. You guys, I'm sure have noticed on those buttons when I talked about those other features that were available. That's the ability for you to transfer into, whether it be in NDR, maybe you have to use an economic development grant. Maybe in the PD, you have to use underage drinking or a seatbelt enforcement. So it's just a way of transferring your time when you have to use a project code with it. Excuse me. The way you'll do that is you see that transfer button, you'll click on the arrow and then you'll go to search. So you enter in the time that you started and you go click on the arrow and go to search. Over here, you're going to choose a different labor category. All that means is you're working from a different funding source. So it's a different labor category, a work category. When you click on that labor category, it's going to pull up a list of all the different project codes that you can add. So you click on the plus sign, choose whichever project code you want to allocate that time to, and then you click save. Overtime and comp time, when you're logging in and out, overtime is any hours that are over 40 in a work week, and that means actually worked hours. It is not going to go into overtime if you have vacation or sick time. It is truly your worked hours for the week. And once you hit over 40, the system will automatically put that extra time into overtime. You'll know it by this designation here. This little icon means that it's overtime. The system is going to put it in and it knows when you've hit your 40 hours. It will default to paying at an overtime rate, but we know we can choose between comp time and overtime. If an employee prefers to have comp time instead, they'll right click on that icon and it will pull this up. When they approve overtime, they are approving it to be changed into their comp balance. Okay, and that is all they do. So once they approve the overtime and they apply, it changes that from now being paid to going into their comp bucket. Exempt employees have a little bit of a different view. Exempt employees are going to get paid for 40 hours per week, no matter how many hours they work. If you work 80 hours in that 40-hour work week period, you're still only going to get paid for 40. But we do have to keep track of those hours, so we make sure we're taking out the appropriate PTO, and this will be for next year. So really the only pay code other than our normal hours should be PTO that you're using for exempt employees. So you'll enter in your time and then you can see that the schedule defaults to whatever hours they are scheduled for that day. If you need to add in some PTO, you'll simply click on that add new, because again, we can only have one pay code per line, right? So if you need to add it in, you'll add it in and you'll designate the pay code to PTO and click apply. Once you do that, it adds in this second line, and here we have home PTO. So then you'll be able to enter in whatever hours that you want to use of a different pay code type. Okay.
So when we're doing that, we don't need to punch in or out. We just need to click into these and enter
The total
PTO.
hours for the day. Well, right. Now, I would also recommend you put in the hours you work each day. And here's why. You're still going to get paid no matter how many hours you work. But when it comes to budget time and you're asking for extra people, it's a lot easier to justify that you need an extra body when you can show you're regularly working 60 hours a week than if you aren't entering any hours and it shows you're just doing 40. So track your time accurately. And that way it's going to benefit you if you want to ask for extra bodies later. It's also just a good habit to get into, making sure that you're not missing a day when maybe you were gone and you should have entered PTO and you didn't. Most of the PTO should be scheduled ahead of time, right? This is only if you're going to be away and you're calling in sick or something of that nature. But it is a good habit for us to track time no matter what. We spent a lot of money on the software, so might as well use it for everybody. So you'll enter in however many hours the PTO, and then you're going to want to take it out because again, it's always going to default to show that you have that time in there. If you don't take it out, it's going to show 16 hours for that day. You're not going to get paid anymore, but it will just be an inaccurate representation. Okay. Every time you make a change in time card, whether it's exempt or non-exempt, so in other words, whether you're in the time entry or you're in this project view with just flat hours, you want to click save whenever you make a change or an addition. It will give you an error message if you try to go out of it without clicking save. It'll at least give you an extra warning, but you're going to want to do that to make sure all of the stuff that you changed stays in there. So we talked just a second ago about scheduling time off. That's very easy to do. We have a tile right on that dashboard. Pardon me. The time off tile is easy access to do it without even having to click on the tile and go any further. You enter in the reason, which again will be PTO for non-exempt employees. It may also be comp time. That would be another option in there for them if they have comp balance. Then you're going to select the start and end time. You can choose one date or a range of dates. You'll select if you want full hours or partial hours. Now, the one thing I would caution you on is that everyone has to have a schedule in there. If you enter in full hours, it's going to put in the full hours of whatever their schedule is. If you don't have a schedule, there's no hours to put in. So you'll have to designate the hours yourself. If you put in that you want hours, it will also put a drop down that allows you to put in the start and end time. There's a button as well to notify your colleagues. This could be really handy if in your department you only have so many people allowed off on a day. It allows the employees to know who else is off and if they can request that day or not, or you can always request it, but at least it gives them a good indication of whether or not it would be approved. And then when you're finished, you just hit the submit button. That is one way of doing it. The alternate way gives you a little more detail. It's the same button, but you want to click on that advanced scheduling from the tile. When you click on advanced options, it's going to pull up a calendar. This just gives you a better view. You can also see this green here. It's a little difficult to see, maybe just because we're in this presentation, but this green indicates that that day is already off. So employees won't be asking for a day off that they already have. They can also see if there's other things going on. So for example, there's some holidays here, that day is off and this has a pending request. Okay, so they'll have some indications. You can go as, I honestly don't know exactly what the range is for how far out it goes, but I know you can look pretty far in advance, probably up through the end of 24, I would imagine you can request time off. When you do your advanced options, you're going to choose your dates and then you'll hit apply. That's going to bring up this option here where you're going to indicate if you want the full day or the time. And you'll also indicate what type of time off you're going to use, in this case, PTO. Once you click on review, you can review it again. But what I like about the advanced option is that you'll notice that the PTO balance here is different than the PTO balance on that front tile. When you go into advanced options, it calculates what your PTO balance will be at the time you're requesting. It takes into account what you're going to accrue, and it also takes into account any approved time off that you already have. So when you go into the advanced options, especially if you're looking at a date that's fairly far in the future, or if you have a lot of time off already scheduled, this will give you an accurate representation to the best estimate, right? You won't know if there's going to be unscheduled time in between, but it'll give you a fairly accurate representation of how much time you'll have at the point of that request. So you can click review or you can submit it from here. If you review it, it just gives you one more chance, a summary of everything that will be in there. This comment section is kind of a held over from when we were doing this system, not knowing if we were still going to be in sick time, personal days. So really this was a holdover from before. We won't be using comments. That was really just to say expanded sick or something along those lines. So please don't just ignore that portion of it. That was for scheduling time off. If you have unscheduled time off, that would be for employees who call in sick. I would recommend soon as you get that call from them, enter it right away. All you're gonna do is go into the employee's time card, select on the date. And because we're not entering a time, you can see that over here, this is what they're scheduled for. The employee did not show up on Monday or Tuesday, so we know we have to enter something in for them. You'll go over here, click on the pay code, and then you'll select over here. You can either enter in the number of hours that they're gonna be gone, or if they have a schedule, you can enter the full scheduled day and it'll automatically put in the hours that they have scheduled.
So it'll be up to the manager to fill in when they're absent, not the employee.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so if an employee has time entry though, Garrett, they could come in here and do that. You're still gonna have to approve it. They
Right.
won't ever be able to put in PTO without supervisor or manager approval.
Right.
Okay. So their unscheduled time off, once you enter in the PTO and you put in the hours, and then you're gonna go up and click the save button. Yes, yep. You'll click the save. So you notice that in here, we had those red flags. These are called exceptions. Those red flags were in there because the employee had a schedule and didn't show up and enter anything into the schedule. Those red flags are going to be to indicate to you and to the employees that there's something wrong and they need to account for that time. Once you have gone in and entered in that PTO, it changes that to this little mark here. That is an excused absence. Okay, it just takes it out of that red flag status. Lots of indicators are on there. So you'll see those red flags and it might not be the red flag, right? This is when the system generates an exception. There's all kinds of different indicators to tell you different things about what's going on with the time card. I put the list in here for you, but you don't have to memorize these. These, as soon as you hover over that exception flag in the employee time card, it will tell you exactly what that is. So you can see lots of different indicators that you can look at. Hyperfines are going to be really useful for you guys, and they're just a way of filtering out employees. There's some hyperfines that are already pre-built in there for you, and there's going to be the ability for you guys to create your own hyperfines. Maybe, Garrett, you only want to see heavy equipment operators. You might build a hyperfind that only has that position in it. Maybe you only want people that are working nights for water treatment plant. Maybe you only want people that are on the facilities crew for the airport. Whatever the case may be, you can create your own hyperfines and save them. It's just a really nice way of filtering down employees. You can do it by department, you can do it by crew, or you can get as personalized as you want. So time card approvals will be something that the employee will approve and the supervisor will approve. So employee is going to go in there and indicate that they have worked or all of their hours are accounted for. And when you guys are approving their time cards, you're going to want to make sure that you're reviewing them and resolving any exceptions. So any of those red flags that are showing up, you're going to want to make sure that you have looked at it and you know what it is or said it's okay. That might be missed punches, it might be early ins, late outs, missed lunches, or unexcused absences. Right now, the system is set up. If employees that come in and clock in or enter a time that's more than 15 minutes before their scheduled start will be red flagged. And if they log out more than half an hour after their scheduled end time, those things will get red flagged. Any questions so far? And I am really sorry. I hope if somebody else is on the teams, if you have a microphone, if you just want to let me know if there's something that comes in the chat. I'm not able to keep an eye on that while I'm doing the presentation.
It says missed lunch, but they're not going to be punching in and out for lunch, are they? It's just going to be morning start time, end time, and everyone has a standard, whatever their department standard lunchtime is, and that's just going to be taken off of their hours for today, or for that day, correct?
That is correct. However, if an employee does not get lunch, there was, and I'll show it to you how it's used. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to go through some real-time examples. We'll get in the system and I can show you how some of it works. Because when you're looking at slides, it's never quite as effective as when you look at it actually being performed. But I'll show you how they can indicate if they missed a lunch. And that's one thing that you'll review as well. So when you see an exception on there, the way to resolve it is you're just gonna right click on it. You're gonna look to see what the exception is. In this case, they left early before their scheduled time. And then you will go ahead and mark it as reviewed. Once you have marked it as reviewed, it turns green and you can save. But let's say that you aren't gonna mark it as reviewed. Let's say that they punch in early. They punch in, they're scheduled at 8 AM, but they come in at 7:05 and you watch them come in and they go and they get some coffee and they make their oatmeal and they sit in the break room and they eat their breakfast. And then at 8 o'clock, they go to start work. Two things are gonna happen. You're gonna see that as an exception and you can go in and then you can edit. And you can change that to actually be 8 because that employee did not come in and start working at 7. They started working at 8. That's the first thing you're going to do. The second thing is having that conversation with the employee to say, it's fine if you come in early. Please don't clock in until you're actually working, right? And people are in habits. It's going to be something that we're all learning this together and we're going to have to try to help each other form good habits of waiting to log in until they actually are ready to work. You can approve your time card and an employee's time card in the same way. And that is going to be on this approve button right here. You can see it's the same on each time card. After you've reviewed and you've checked any exceptions for the employee's time card, you can go ahead and approve it. An employee should have already approved their time card by the time you get to it. But there might be a case, maybe they are out sick and you actually had to go in there and enter their time. And for whatever reason, they can't go in and approve. There should be very few of those reasons because the system is so accessible from anywhere. The employee doesn't have to be at work. You don't have to be at a time clock to approve your time card. You can approve it when you're laying on the couch at home by pulling up the app if they choose to have it on their phone. It's not required, but if they want it, it's convenience for them that they can go in and do all of those things without having to come in. Data views are just like it sounds. It's a way of viewing a specific type of data or a big grouping of data all at once. The data views are going to be a good, helpful tool for you guys when it comes to looking at accruals, also looking at who's got overtime. And you'll use these each time when you're going to do a pay period close, which is your way of approving multiple time cards. So if you have a large crew, you don't want to go in there and do each one individually, you can use a data view and you'll go into the pay period close. And all you do when you come into the pay period close, it shows all of the employees. It's going to show you if they have approved or not. You can see over here if they have approved it, approved by, and then you'll select on the employees that you want. And you'll go ahead and click approve up in the corner. So this should make it really easy. When we talked about resolving exceptions, you don't have to wait until the end of the pay period to do it. You can go in every day before you leave, or every morning and look at the day before. You can resolve those exceptions right then and there. So instead of waiting until the end of the pay period and you have, I don't know, 40 of them to go through. If you do it each day, by the time you get to the end of the pay period, you should be able to come right in here and approve all the time cards because your exceptions would be gone already. You can choose which pay period you're looking at. And again, this is where that hyperfind might come in real handy. If you know that a specific crew, all of them worked late one day, maybe you want to use your hyperfind to go in here and approve all those time cards. You know those exceptions are all right. Make sense? Okay. Schedules are a really important piece of everything that we've talked about so far because a lot of those exceptions won't happen unless employees have a schedule assigned to them. We will be able to go in at a glance from your dashboard and take a look and see who is on schedule. This is going to be pretty helpful. You can see if there's someone missing. We don't log in and out for breaks, so this one won't be quite as efficient for anyone, but the rest of the information will give you the opportunity to see exactly what's going on with your crew right at the start. You can click on the little arrow here to go into the schedules, and you'll see that each person is listed, and the purple indicates the schedule that they're on. We can set these schedules up, and we've done so for most everybody, but we're going to want to keep working with them, and you guys are going to be working with them quite a bit as well as we go forward. So with the schedule, you can automatically, it's gonna come up by employee, but you can also view by schedule group. Schedule group is just gonna be how employees, I think of them almost as crews. So for example, a schedule group that we have is Battalion A in the fire department. Everyone in Battalion A is scheduled together. Battalion B. PD patrol mornings, PD patrol nights, street sweepers, street patchers, street mowers. Those are all different crews. So they're all grouped together in a schedule group. So you can view by schedule group, and then you can take a look at their schedules, whether it be this pay period, the next pay period, the previous pay period. You can see what everyone was scheduled. And again, you'll always have access to use your hyperfinds as well. You can assign these by patterns, and by patterns, I'll use the fire department again. They are scheduled, they work 48 hours, which is 2 24-hour shifts, and then they have 4 shifts off. So that is a pattern that repeats itself over and over and over again. When we have that pattern in there, we can assign that pattern and it will just keep scheduling that employee out until the end of time or until we tell it a stop date. That also works, for example, in other departments where maybe you work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the next day you work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If that pattern keeps repeating, we can set those patterns up. You can then assign those patterns to employees by right-clicking on the name, and then you just go up and click on Schedule Pattern. We have the patterns already set up in the system for you. You will just choose from the patterns that we already have. You can see that they're labeled, but if you aren't sure what city hours are, you can just hover over this description and it will tell you city hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Okay, so we've got lots of different shifts. You've got 10-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts with different start times. Those patterns are already built in there for you. That doesn't mean you can't make your own new pattern. When you do it, you're going to say what date you want the pattern to start, how long you want it to go on. So maybe you only want it for until ending on a specific date. And then you can also override other patterns. This is really important to check that box. If you don't check that box, if they are working days and they're moving to nights and you forget to check that box, they're going to be scheduled for both. And they're probably not going to be happy. And they might also have some confusion about which one they're actually scheduled for. You can also say which week you want it to start on. This isn't really going to make sense until I can show you, but if it's a pattern that repeats itself and it takes 7 weeks to complete that pattern, maybe when an employee starts, you want them to start on week 5 of that pattern. And we'll go through and show you that. You can also do just a single shift. So if someone calls in and you just want to add in a shift for someone, same principle, you right click on the name and do add shift. Once you add that shift, it's going to bring up this little sidebar menu. You can use this little slider here to say what times you want them to work, or you can go in and enter the times down here, whichever one is easier for you. You can set this to repeat for a set number of days, or you can just do it 1 day at a time. You'll just set whatever the shift is that you want to add, and then you'll click apply. Once you apply it, it goes into that employee schedule and it will show on their app as well, or wherever they look. We also have the ability to do quite a few other things. If you look at the quick actions menu, once you click that button, this whole menu will slide out. And you can see that there is copy paste and also delete. So let's say that you're adding in 1 shift for everybody because it's cleanup week and you just have to add in 1 Saturday shift in order to get it done. You can add a shift for 1 person, and then you can go click on this copy paste function. By clicking it once, it copies the shift. So you click copy paste, go click on the shift that you want to copy, and then you can paste it as many times as your heart desires. So you can continue pasting that shift until you click copy paste again, in which case it will stop pasting that shift. Same thing with delete. If you've added a shift you didn't want to, or you want to take it away from somebody who's not able to take that shift, you click delete, and then you go and click on as many shifts as you need to delete. When you have one of these buttons selected, it will always tell you right across the top here what the function is doing. So it'll say copy paste, click on a shift to copy. You click on the shift and then it'll say paste wherever you want it to be, right? Those aren't the exact words, but it will tell you everything that you're doing across the top. But it makes it really easy when you want to just switch people around or add a shift to a lot of people or delete it out. Okay, any questions on what we've covered so far? I know it's a lot of information. I'm gonna look in the chat and see if there's anything there. No mic, okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jen. Okay, why don't we go in and take a look at some examples? When you log into ADP, you're gonna log in just like you normally do. Here. Maybe. Oh, I might have caps on. Let's see. Nope. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and click on the dashboard, and this is gonna be the same for everybody. It will automatically sign us into the timekeeping. And these are the tiles that we've already gone through. This tile we didn't go through yet, but this is where you're going to see any notifications from your employees. If someone has requested time off, it will come here in your employee requests. If you have requested time off personally, it will be here in my requests. You can see any timekeeping tasks or messages that come through, timekeeping requests. We probably won't use this whole lot to begin with. That's going to be if people are requesting to work certain shifts. And you'll have any notices. We've talked about my time card, and you can see on my time card, it will tell employees as well. There's 6 exceptions on my time card right now. So employees will already know what it is. Your time off, this tile is where you can request the time off right away. There's also the punch tile. My screen is a little big right now. Normally the punch tile is up on top, but the punch tile is there as well. When we talked about the transfers, that's where the transfer button is. And Rod, when we talked about not having a lunch, this is it.
Okay.
You are 100% right that every employee, whatever their schedule is, it has an automatic deduction applied if they use it. So for example, if someone works in City Hall, they're scheduled 8 to 4:30. That's an 8.5-hour shift. There's an automatic half-hour deduction for lunch. If somebody is working a 12-hour shift, they don't have any lunches scheduled, there's no automatic deductions for lunch. Okay? So we should have those already built in. But if somebody doesn't take a lunch, all they have to do is come in here and click that when they're using the punch tile. I'll show you how to do it from the time entry as well, and we'll get to that part. This scan button is something that's really new. It's an extremely new feature, so new that when we were going through this with the implementation team, they didn't even know what it did. So it's just a feature they're adding. That feature will allow you in the future, it'll be like a barcode. When you click on it, it's going to look for the camera. And the camera, you could just scan the barcode and it would automatically put you in whatever project code you should be in. So it'd be really useful for perhaps PD where they're doing seatbelt enforcement grant time and they're maybe doing underage drinking and they're doing distracted driving grants. It allows them to just do that a little faster. We won't be using that to start. Manage time cards is a tile that's going to be on there for you as well, and it will tell you exactly what's going on with the time cards that you're responsible for. There are 5 missed out punches. You can see that there are 8 people that worked when they weren't scheduled, 3 early outs, 2 late ins, and whatever else is in there. You can go in by just clicking this arrow to go ahead and see what those time cards are. So there are 14 that need review. If I click on this here, it's going to take me into those time cards, and you will see I have 1 of 7. So that means that there's 14 things that need to be reviewed, and there's 7 people that it applies to. Okay, so you can go in and you'll see, I'm going to hover over that. I'm not clicking anything. It tells me exactly what the problem was. This is an unexcused absence. She was scheduled to work this day and there's no in punches or out punches. This is blue. It's an excused absence and we can see why, because there's a holiday.
Are those automatically put in?
Mhm. Holidays will automatically go in. We already have them built in. Can anybody tell me why they're on separate lines?
You can only have one thing on one line.
Yeah, one pay code per line. That's right. Exactly right. Okay, so you can add all these in and you see that they're on another line. We would add that in just by using that extra one. Let me go back to my home screen. We also have on here managed schedule. Now, managed schedule is going to be pretty much for everybody. That's how you're gonna go in. There's also a manage my schedule tile, but we're gonna go in and we're gonna manage the schedule for our employees. I'm gonna show you, normally it will default to by employee, so it's gonna list every employee that you have access to. I want to apologize because I'm not able to change my profile to view it as manager. I'm gonna have some features that you guys don't all have. It's gonna look different for employees as well because they don't have all the features as well. So mine will look a little different. I have every employee. I apologize, I can't show you guys exactly what yours will be as well. But if we look by schedule group, and I'm just gonna collapse all of these so you can see a lot of the different schedule groups that we have already built in. We've got airport facilities, airport operations, got battalion A, B, and C, dispatch. We've got different office hours, which are hourly and salaried, PD admin. So you can see lots of different things in here. If you notice, it looks like some groups have schedules and some don't. A big part of that is just because if you look at sanitation or shop, if I open this up, everybody is scheduled for the same time, right? They all share the same schedule. If I go look at though, for example, PD patrol, there are schedules in there, but because they're all at different times, different days, they aren't going to show on that big schedule group. They will show by the employee though. Okay. Let's go back up and let's take a look at an example of how we want to add in a schedule group. Let's say that Frank Foreman needs to be added to a schedule group. Frank Foreman is going to, I right-clicked on his name. I can look right here and see lots of information about Frank just by doing that. I can see that his job, he's on the street sweeper crew. That tells me that's probably the schedule group that I should add him into, right? That's his position. You can see his payroll right now. He is scheduled to work 10-hour shifts. He doesn't have any weekly hours right there, and he's not in a schedule group, so there's nothing under schedule group name. I'm gonna add him to a group. So when I go in and add him to a group, I'm gonna select which group I want him in. And we already know that he's a sweeper, so we'll go down and we will put him on the street sweeper crew. I'm gonna start it yesterday. How long do I want it to go? Maybe I only want it to go until the end, we'll just say until Wednesday, right? And I don't want him to be on any other schedule groups that period of time. I'm gonna move him over to that group completely, and I'm gonna click apply. So now, there he went, Frank Foreman's gone. And if I go down here and I look at street sweepers, it says temporarily unavailable. I can go up here and refresh. And now street sweepers, there's Frank Foreman, he got added. So now he's in that schedule group until next Wednesday. So let's say that I want to go ahead and add a pattern for Frank Foreman, right? Now this isn't, we don't have patterns necessarily in here right now, but if I want to do that, excuse me, I click on his name, not his schedule. See how that's different? There's override ability. I can add a shift, but I want to right click on his name and I'm going to add a schedule pattern. When I add the schedule pattern, I'm going to choose from all the ones that are built in there. And just so I can kind of show you what it means when I say add them to a specific day, let's go ahead and put him on PD patrol days. Do you see how this pattern for PD patrol is 7 weeks long before that pattern cycles over and starts at the beginning? If I want Frank Foreman to come in and I want him to be working this part of that pattern. So because I'm having him start yesterday, which was Thursday, right? If I move up, here it is. So if he started yesterday on this pattern, there's nothing there, but I want him to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I'm gonna start him on week 6. So when I put this in, he's gonna be on this starting the 7th for specific dates through the 13th. I'm going to start on week 6. So by doing that, that will put them in for the correct dates. Does that make sense when I say start on the proper week? It's really hard to explain when you're just looking at those slides. So I can put that in and I can apply. And there's Frank Foreman's shifts. He's scheduled Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and he's off on Wednesday. Even though we said we wanted that schedule pattern to go through the 13th, the schedule pattern has him off. Now, if I did that and I say, shoot, he can't work on Sunday, he, for whatever reason, can't be there. I'm gonna click on this quick actions. It slides this menu out. I'm gonna click on delete. Here it tells me delete, select an entity, and then I just go in and I delete that shift. I'm gonna select it again, and now I'm not gonna delete any more shifts when I click.
So you moved him from sweeper to PD
Yeah, it
until
was
just
just-
until Wednesday though. So does
Right.
it automatically put him back into sweep after Wednesday?
He
Or do
doesn't
we to
have
do
a
that?
schedule assigned, right?
That's correct.
So if I assigned that schedule for sweeper to him, I could assign it for the 13th or the 14th till forever,
Mhm.
right? But when I assigned him to the PD and I said override other schedule patterns, yes, that will only override for that whatever period you put in, and then it'll go right back to. Okay, so this might be effective if you could see in the street department. I don't know, there's this thing that we get snow every now and then. And maybe you only want, Garrett's looking out the window. And maybe you only want to assign them to working nights for 2 weeks and then revert back to whatever their normal schedule would be. You can put it in there that way.
So for schedules is, for us, none of this really is gonna apply to anybody in my workforce. But there are extra days that they work just because there's Saturday and occasionally Sunday burials. Are those going to be just available that they can punch in and out on a Saturday and a Sunday? Or are we going to have to add something to their schedule to allow them to punch in and out on those days?
That's really up to you. If you know there is something coming up, you can schedule it. I think it would be beneficial to the employee because again, if they have the schedule on their phone and they can see, it's easy to forget sometimes, especially if they have days off at the end of the week that they were coming in on a Saturday. But they can also just punch in, even if it's not on the schedule, you'll just have to approve it
That's-
because
yeah.
it'll show up as an exception.
That's like, because, I mean, we have the work board up. So if there's a Saturday schedule burial, everybody knows it. We
Right,
really don't have to concern ourselves with that. But so that my question was, yeah, was that, will I have to add a day to their schedule? But if it's just time available, that's just gonna be the easiest, just to, and then,
they can't see your whiteboard from home though,
okay,
right?
yeah, but yeah, well, and I guess it's really not going to be too much like I said, because we know a couple of days in advance if they're going to be, and we don't know ever really how long the days are going, because it's not full days when they come in on a Saturday or Sunday. It's from, if they have to come in ahead and do a couple things to prepare for the burial,
Yep.
put out traffic cones and.
It
things
would
like
just
that.
show up as that red exception and then you would just have to approve it. So again, it's either way you can do it. Whatever is gonna work best in your department.
So just all in all, we always just have to go back to approve it. That's basically
Yep.
it.
Right, right. If it's in there and it's scheduled, you're gonna approve the time card, but you're not gonna have to go in and specifically look at that shift to see what you're approving.
So, and so the other question tying to that then, and maybe I just missed it, but so they're punching in and out and we have the exception day. Are they going to have to go in and choose whether they want that overtime or if they want it put into their comp time.
Yep.
And if they don't make, if they don't make a choice, then is it default to automatically put it into comp time until they get to their 40 hours and then automatically put beyond that into the overtime?
No.
No?
It will automatically default to paying overtime.
Okay.
We would always rather pay the overtime than have it to go into comp time.
Okay.
When you pay it right now, I know exactly what rate it's gonna get paid at today at overtime rate. When it goes into your comp time bucket, it's still going in as time and a half. So if you have 4 hours, you're either gonna get paid overtime at time and a half, or it's gonna go into my comp time bucket instead of 4 hours, 6 hours, right?
Okay, yep.
So when I want to use that 6 hours, it might be next year. And now I've gotten an increase. So now that is costing the city 2.5%, 5%, 10% more than what it was when you earn it. So it's always going to default to paying overtime, but the employee can select to choose comp time if they want.
But they need to do that.
That's correct. It's on the onus is on the employee. It is not up to us to change that. They have to be the ones to select.
That's how you view that, it costs more,
Yeah,
but you're budgeting for their it's extra money. You mean pay overtime, it's actually costing you more. When you're budgeting for an employee, you know what I mean? I always see it the opposite. It costs more money to pay overtime than it does comp time.
it costs
You're
me,
missing the person for their hourly rate changes.
but you're still gonna be missing that person later on. It's like
Right.
robbing Peter to pay Paul. I mean, you're shorting yourself in the future, or you're just paying the cost right now of that shortfall.
Sure.
So, yeah, okay, so we're gonna keep going. So we've added Frank Foreman. We're gonna get rid of his shifts here. He's not really gonna work in PD on the sweeper crew, but
Yeah, I don't know that guy.
so we can go in there now. I've made all these changes, right? And if I try to go back home, it's gonna say, do you want to leave this site? Any changes you made may not be saved. Okay, that's fine, because we don't really want to save these changes right now, right? The only thing we really did was add Frank to the sweeper crew, and we could shave that, but we'll go ahead and leave. Okay, so if we're entering time in my time card, we can go in, and I'm just gonna show you this one as an example. You can see on Monday, I came in and I left. Now I worked later again, even though it's still the same thing, it's still worked hours. Because it's a break, it's a split shift, it's also gonna put that on another line.
Well, why does it have it the in and out on the same line? Like there's, you know what I'm saying? In the graph, it says another in and out, but it has to drop down.
This would be if we were having people log in and out for lunch, and we are not. So it's the same shift that they're scheduled, but they're logging in and out for lunch.
But if they come back in because of call in or whatever,
Correct.
it would just go to the next.
Right. I mean, this is a long lunch from 5:30 to 9.
Yeah,
That's a different shift.
right.
So that's why it's on a new line.
And then it doesn't say Monday next to it, but since it's down from there,
Right.
it just counts that as being Monday.
Right. It's gonna always, if it's blank, it's gonna default up to the line above.
Okay.
So,
And if they check in, like say we have a burial at 9 o'clock on Saturday and then another one at 2. And they're gone at 10 and don't come back until 2 o'clock or 2:15, whenever it's time to actually do the burial. Then there will be that second drop if there's a split shift.
Yep.
Where they've checked in twice in the same day.
yep, if there's a larger gap in between. I think it depends on how long your break is allotted for. If it's more than that 30 minutes, or probably gonna be an hour. If it's more than an hour, it's gonna consider it another shift. Okay, so if I wanted to add in another one, I could just click on this add row, and then I could add in more time there as well. You'll notice that this is one. If I hover over it, it's unscheduled, but I can tell you that this little extra, I don't even know what it is. It reminds me of a cube, a little blue cube over on the side. That means that it was an unverified location. That is one really easy way to see if an employee typed in their time or if they actually used the clock. Right? Because we're gonna want to know. We're gonna look through there. Here's my schedule. And you can see any exceptions that are there. Late in, canceled deduction, all of those things will show up. You will also see, I'm gonna go to the previous pay period because I think I have one on here. This one is a canceled deduction. Oh, here we go. Cancel deduction and early out. So there might be multiple exceptions on one that you're gonna go and look. I can select on this, but because this is my time card, I will never be able to justify that exception. That can only be justified by my supervisor, right? Same thing for you guys. If you have an exception on your time card, you're not gonna be able to approve that exception. Whoever approves your time card is going to do that. So that would be the department head or your supervisor or whoever, whatever level you're at.
So in that little cube that you were talking about, does it specify where they timed it, punched in and whatever?
It means unverified location, right? So it means.
But it won't tell you what that they, did
We
the-
will, you're asking about geofencing.
yeah,
It will eventually. I will tell you that we have geofencing capabilities, but we're just starting with a timekeeping system. The last thing we want to do is have 400 people that are getting errors on the first day when they try to log in. We are not turning on the geofencing right away.
from January 1, okay.
Yeah, no, we are not going to do that. We want people to be able to get used to the system and not immediately start with frustrations. So
Gotcha.
we're gonna leave the geofencing off for the time being. Hey, you can see here, here's an excused absence again, same thing with Thanksgiving. Okay. We're gonna go back and look at some time off requests as well. When I have my time off requests over here, I'm gonna look at my requests. I don't have any employee requests because I don't have anyone that reports directly to me, so I won't be able to show you those. But yours is gonna look very similar to this. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna take off this. I'm gonna add in all statuses. So this is every status of a request that's out there. You can see that I have 2 time off requests that have been approved. Another question a lot of people had was, what if I have 2 people request the same day off? How do I know who requested it first? You'll be able to look at the timestamp. You can see created on, and it's gonna tell you when down to the time that that submit was made. So if you have 2 people, you can easily tell who put it in first. You can also tell if you have multiple people approving time off, you'll be able to see who approved that as well. So Garrett, if you and Zach are both approving time off and you want to know who approved that Saturday for so-and-so, you can go in and look and see who it was.
Okay.
Okay. Anything that you want to see on here, you can also look at accruals. Again, these are my accruals because I'm in my requests right now, but you guys will also have access to see employees' accruals. Employees will always be able to see exactly what they have. So you will never run into an issue where they just aren't sure if they can take time off or not. And as I mentioned, we really should only have comp time if they have any comp time accrued and PTO. One thing I want to mention is the system is here. You guys can go in right now. You already saw it's on your app, right? Please know that the accruals are not correct. This is still a system that we've been testing in. So if you go in and you see that it has 2 hours of PTO and you should have 102, it's not accurate. It's just a test environment. Until we actually go into production and go live with it, they will not be accurate. Okay. And something I'll mention here, I guess I haven't mentioned it in the other ones. We're gonna have, we go live with timekeeping December 31st. That's a Sunday, right? Not a lot of people will be using it, but on January 1st, we will have quite a few people that are gonna be using that timekeeping. When they look at their accrual rate on January 1st, it's going to be whatever we had as of the last time pay period was run, which was December 22nd, right? Well, technically it'll be through whatever, the 18th or something. Until we run that January 5th payroll and see what vacation was used in those last 2 weeks, we'll still have to make an adjustment. So from about January 1st through January 5th, we'll say, there's gonna be a little gap where we'll still have to adjust for whatever time off was used in that last 2 weeks of December. Does that make sense? Because it won't get reported to us until we run that payroll.
So they won't, and the only thing that will be is people just will not be able to check their up to the minute accruals for a week.
Right. Not even a week, like 4 or 5 days. Yep,
And now we can request off to the minute now, right? So like,
they get paid for off to the minute, but we are putting the request in 15-minute increments.
okay,
Oh yeah, so if you have a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment, you can put in 2 hours.
You can put in 2 hours and you can put in 2 hours and 15 minutes,
That's,
but you can't put in 2 hours and 12 minutes.
it's still, okay. So I thought it was me down to the minute, but it's not.
It is,
It's 15-minute increments.
right. We are paying minute to the minute. So if somebody comes and they clock in at 7:57 and they leave at 4:03, we're paying them for those 6
6
minutes.
minutes on each
Yep.
side.
Yep,
The time off stuff is 15, okay.
correct. And if that results in 0.18 hours of overtime for the week, so be it. If they were here working, we should pay them for it. And that doesn't mean that we can't also, if we know they weren't working, again, you can go in and you can edit those, right? You have the ability to change it. So if they are logging in, same 2 things will happen. You can change that. If they're coming in early and they're not actually working when they punch in, then edit it to the time that they actually start working and have that conversation.
So is there a round up and round down? Let's just say theoretically, someone needs to leave at 12:15 and they planned on coming back at 2:15. Their doctor's appointment ran a little late. They showed back up at 2:20. Does that still go round down to 2:15? Is it still 2 hours, or then they're getting paid for missing 5 minutes?
So if their doctor's appointment was noon to 2,
Sure.
okay, and they come back at 2:15,
I'm saying in between 2 and 2:15. Let's say like 2:07,
then it'll start whenever they clock back in,
and then they'll just miss time then?
potentially,
They just missed 7 minutes.
potentially.
They can't, or could they opt to take another 15 minutes of PTO to cover?
That would really be up to you, right? Because then you could just have to approve their
so
15 minutes.
so then
PTO.
is it going to be the option then too? Because I'm assuming it will be red flagged if they're scheduled to 4:30 and they came back 15 minutes late for a doctor's appointment and then say, well, I can just work till 4:45 instead of 4:30. Is that going to be an option? It's going to be red flagged and then it's just,
That would really be up to you,
Okay.
Doug, because it's a half hour past their scheduled end time is what will be flagged, or more than 15 minutes past or earlier than their start time.
okay, so but that's going to be something that whoever's supervising the group of time cards will have to approve that difference in time. Okay.
Hey, we're not gonna stand over anyone's shoulder and watch them minute by minute.
Right.
Part of this is having employees be responsible for their own time. Right? I mean, they can request time off if they know there's a doctor's appointment. They can talk to you if they know that they'd like to stay an extra 15 minutes and make up that time because they came back late. They do all those things already, I'm sure.
Yep.
You don't.
So I don't think it's really gonna change our interactions with them. It's just gonna change who's responsible for managing it. They're gonna have to take on some of this responsibility.
It doesn't happen a bunch, but it's things that are going to happen. It's going to be like, I can imagine this next 6 months or in the summertime when it gets really busy, how many time clock changes because people ran into the shop and straight to their machine or got off their machine and straight to their car and either didn't punch in or didn't punch out. There's going to be some.
And if that's the case, then they can go into their time card if they forgot to punch in and they enter and they came in at 8. I mean, you're 100% right. There's gonna be a learning curve here while we do something new, just like anything new that people do. And it's not gonna be perfect. We've tried really hard to go through every scenario that might come up, but we're not gonna think of all of them. And there's gonna be new things that haven't happened before, but when that comes up, we'll adjust and we'll correct and
I have
Move
another
forward.
question.
Yeah.
Say someone's scheduled PTO on Tuesday and they took 8 hours of PTO for the day. And then Thursday, a storm rolls around, and they ended up working an actual 40 hours. Is it become an option on their time card to pay out the PTO as well as their worked hours?
it will just automatically do that, right?
Unless they change it, they can still go back into their schedule then before they approve it and send it to me and say, I want to keep my PTO and just work my 40.
I'll be honest, I haven't come across that.
I just know it comes up in my department a lot.
I don't know that it's an option in there right now. I believe you can go in and request to cancel it, but
Okay.
can they just take it out? No.
They'd have
Once
to request it
PTO
and I would have to approve it afterwards.
Once PTO is approved, it's approved, and that's gonna be in there. Like I said, it hasn't come up as a scenario yet, but
Right.
again, we can always change it.
Well,
And
you
when we,
got my email about our shifts.
I know, because everybody
We do,
has their uniqueness.
yeah, we're not just 8 to 4:30, we have everything.
The other thing that's going to with, you know, if you're scheduling something 4 months out and you put your time in, and then after 3 months, you find out that, well, now something has happened and I can't take that week off, and I don't want to just sit at home. Is there going to be the option to cancel that, that week of PTO? And is there a time frame into which it has to be?
It can't have occurred yet.
It can't have occurred. Okay.
So, and yes, you can go in and cancel those
Okay.
requests. Let's try and, I want to get through a few
Yep.
more
Yeah,
things
yeah.
because there's some other people. And then at the end, if you guys want to talk through some specific scenarios, then we can go through those a little deeper. At this bottom here on my time card for everybody, you can select on any one of these tabs. This is the accruals tab, and this is going to be real time. So you can look at this and you can see PTO, sick leave, comp time, exactly what the balance is for the time frame, right? You can also look at totals. By totals, you can look at all the totals, or maybe I only want to look at the totals for the day. Maybe I just want to look at one of these days when I had come in and worked a couple of different times. Let's see if I can make that a little smaller. So if I want to see the total for Monday, I'll click on Monday, and down here, I've got daily totals. So right now I'm looking at Monday's total, 10.48 hours. If I look at Sunday's total, the total for the day is 3. If I want to look at all or the period to date, because I'm still clicked on Sunday, it's only going to show 3. But if I go down and I click on Saturday, now it shows me the period to date for whoever I have clicked. I have 36.63 hours regular, 8 holiday, and 8, which is the non-worked. That's the same as the holiday. Okay. So I can do any different period. They can see exactly where they're at for how many hours they have in that work week. So for this work week, there was 76.63 regular, 1.13 overtime, 8 holiday. Employees will know exactly what to expect on their time card. Right? So when they're approving, there should be no reason why they don't know where they're at with it. Make sense? Okay, again, there's that approve button. So I could go in and I could approve my time card for the previous pay period. That's mainly what they're going to be doing. That doesn't mean they can't approve for this time period. If you know you're going on vacation for all of next week, and next week is the end of the pay period, you can approve it before you go. And then you don't have to worry about it. You can approve it when you're on vacation. You can pull up your phone and approve it that way. Whatever you want to do. Accessibility is endless. Let's go ahead and look at some of those data views. Let's pretend like you are going to go in. This is over here, the main menu. We're going to go down here. You can look at, there's some overtime group approvals, but what I'm looking for is data views and reports. I'll open that up. I'm going to go to the data view library. This is that same slide that we looked at. I'm going to look at pay period close. When I pull up pay period close, again, I can select if I have a hyperfind. I don't want to look at everybody. Maybe I only want to look at a batch test, right? This is just for testing purposes. So I'm gonna look at all of these people. I'm gonna look and see exactly how many scheduled hours, all worked hours. Looks like there's only 77, 115 non-worked hours. By looking at this, non-worked hours is exactly what it sounds like, right? PTO, holiday, anything else where they actually weren't here working. All the paid hours and any expected pay period hours. That's how many hours I expected based on their schedule. Most of these people don't have a schedule in here right now, so it's 0. Okay. You can move over and you can see if it was approved. This is approved by employee. This is approved by the manager. You can see all of those things. Let's say that you want to go in and select them all. You can unselect, select them either way. Again, a million different ways of doing everything. And then you can approve it, approve those time cards. If you approved it and you realize you didn't really want to, you can go in and you can remove the time card approval for everybody. So there's nothing that you can't go back and edit again later. Even if you've approved a time card, you can make a change afterwards. If you want to search for a specific employee, maybe we want to go up here and we want to look up Garrett. Oh. Employee name or ID. Let's try 1T.
2 Ts,
Yeah, I thought so.
been deleted.
Maybe.
It's your two this morning.
A bad way to find out.
Okay, we'll just look up. I've been picking on Damon, so I'm gonna pick on him. If you put in that name, it's gonna pull up whoever's in there under that name. I'm gonna click on that and you see there's a go-to right up here in the corner. I can go to their time card. I can go to Damon's schedule. I can go to the people. The people is just a really big summary of everything that's assigned to Damon. It's gonna tell me what payroll he has, which means is he on Public Works 10 hours, in which case, how much time is allocated for lunch? What holiday schedule does he get? All of those things are associated with a payroll. You can see what schedule he's on. You can see what schedule group he's associated with. All of those are in the people. But I can go and search for just one employee instead of going to schedules or time cards and searching through all of them. So lots of different ways to get to everything. Any questions on any of this that you'd like to see more of? No? We can, again, look at the time cards for managing those. This is all purple. This is a previous pay period. If I want to look at the current pay period, previous pay period means that it's signed off on. So if I see this coming up purple, I know that I really can't go do anything with it.
But can you still look at it?
You can look at it,
If
but
you're just wanting to go back and check something just to look at, you can still go back and look at it. You just can't do any more editing or changing.
you can look right up here and you can see this grayed out where it says remove sign off. When you see this, you know that it's, again, it's already been signed off on. It's locked. You can't do anything until you go in and remove that sign off. But you guys won't be able to do that. You can approve it, you can remove your approval, but once it is signed off on, that's locking it down from any more edits. Okay. All right, so we will go and look at the current pay period. You can add it in, so for Rob, we'll just say he came in at 8 a.m. You can put in 8. You can put in 0800. It's all gonna go to the same thing. So we're gonna put in 8 a.m. Anybody know before I hover over it, why is it red?
Scheduled?
Because it's not scheduled. Yep, it's unscheduled time that he's working. So if he is gonna go in, and even though he doesn't do this, he can go down, choose for a different transfer, right? He's transferring into a project code. He's gonna search for a labor category, and he's gonna add that project code. Whichever ones they use, they're going to start automatically coming up over here. So once you go in, if there's one that you use a lot of, If you go in and choose it once, the next time, you don't even have to go through the search. You can go in and do callback emergency. Right? So if Rob wants to come in here and he says, I've been on call this week. I had to come back in for whatever reason. Maybe there's a water main break. Maybe something else has happened. He can go in and say, call back emergency, and then what time he left. Okay, that would be about the only exception for employees when they're going in and they're putting in a different pay code is when it's associated with the project code. Otherwise, they could just use that clock in, clock out, and they just put in the time and they're done.
Yeah, and then again, if it's not in their scheduled time, if it's an after hours call in or like a split shift for 2 burials at very different times, then it'll just red flag it and you'll have to go in and.
And just approve for what it's, when approving time off for employees, and one of them is on STD and available to dive into the frozen sick leave. Is this something that we have to deal with or just you and HR? That is a great question, Nick. That will be something HR will deal with. So STD, short-term disability. If somebody is on short-term disability or an FMLA, anytime that somebody's dipping into their sick leave bank, that will be something that they would deal with HR on. So you shouldn't have to worry about that either. We would be putting that in.
Yes, and they'll have to contact you about and make, okay.
Yep. The only time somebody's gonna be on using their sick leave bank is if they are on short-term disability, in which case they're gonna have to contact HR. And also if they're on FMLA, maybe their short-term disability got denied, but they are still gonna be out for an extended period on a medical, well, they should be contacting HR anyway, and we would put that in from their sick bank. Any other questions?
Okay, so the question for that, and we're all gonna get asked this by some of the employees. There was the thought that was out that for people that have been with the city for a long time and have got 800 hours of sick leave, that was going to be dropped back to a standard 480. Is that going to be the case?
I'm not aware of any
Okay,
cutoffs.
that was, I've heard that a couple of times, that was what was going to happen with that. It was, you weren't going to have access, like there's some people with your whole 18 hours of sick leave. It was going to be a maximum of 480 that was going to be allowed. And it's, so you, in the future, you're probably going to get asked that question especially after the first of the year, when the totals start coming out, so.
It's my understanding that sick leave is frozen exactly where it is. So, and I haven't been in every conversation. That was department heads who got together and kind of decided on the policy. But I believe Lisa just sent out that policy clarification, and I don't recall seeing anything in there about any reductions.
That was talked about multiple times, that was going to be the case, that you weren't going to keep your full hours, and it was going to be a standard 480 was going to be the maximum. And I guess frankly, I haven't heard the last couple of months, I haven't heard anything like that, but it had been brought up multiple times before, so.
So more of a policy question. So people are going to be punching in and out, and then they will approve their time card,
Yes,
and then we will approve their time card.
yes.
What's the timetable for that? Like, this is the pay period ends on a Sunday.
Mhm.
Is this something that has to be done that Monday?
Ideally, yes, it would be great to have it done on Monday. It's probably not going to be done Monday. And I will tell you that the timetable will sometimes change a little bit depending on if we have holidays.
Yeah.
Because you have to process payroll, and if the bank is going to be closed, that shortens up the time frame. But I would say probably noon on Tuesday, everything has to be approved.
That's
Pretty standard.
That's when it's been.
Yeah.
I don't do the time, but I approve the time stuff, so. Normally Monday morning, everybody does their thing, and then that gets sent in by whoever actually does, like in my case, my admin.
Yeah.
Files the stuff, so, but Tuesday at noon, unless like Thursday for Thanksgiving or something
Yeah.
like that, then they want it usually by noon on Monday, if it's at all possible, so.
I mean, the thing about it is in the past, we probably had some situations where somebody would say, well, I don't even have their time card. Well, we all have their time cards because they're in there. And if the employee is not around to do it, the supervisor can still go in and look at the times that are in there, approve it, add times if need be, adjust times if need be, and then approve it on the employee's behalf. I don't see any other questions up here. No other questions there. We, as I mentioned, we tried to do as much as we could, but there will be more questions, especially as you guys go in. It is out there and available. You can go in. I encourage you to go into it right now and look around. What I would ask though, is that we are gonna be moving this to a production level, which means it's gonna be unavailable probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? If you're going in today and you're playing around, please try to make things right. Right, so if you're assigning schedules to somebody, don't assign them 6 schedules that are nowhere near what they would normally work. Try to play around and put in things the way that you would want them to be done. Once we go into production, it's my understanding that none of the time off requests will remain in there, but the scheduling should transfer through with what we have already. So we want the scheduling to be as accurate as we can. We're still gonna have work on it, I know that, but if we can just not have a lot of extra work, that would be great.
So someone like Garrett could go in, if he's got time this week or next week, he could go in and begin to build his schedules for after the first of the year, and they should transfer to
We're
what?
gonna be going into production next week, so you could try doing it today. I would maybe just do a
Oh, wait.
couple.
I don't know, do you know when it's gonna snow?
No, well, that's what I'm,
Yeah, I know.
but like you do have a couple people that are
On call.
on call
Then
over.
they're gonna be working midnight to 8 for
Yeah.
sure, so I could go put those.
I'd actually
set my
like,
schedules
thank you
in.
for saying that. I want to bring that up. If it's on call,
Yeah,
okay, on call time, I forgot to go through this with you guys. On call is going to be entered in. Most people usually do, I believe, you end on like a Thursday for most people. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever you do end up doing, but if on Thursday you have somebody and you want to put in their on-call time, it's a pay code. It's not hours that they work. It's a pay code and you're gonna go in here. This will be cleaned up by then. But you can use on-call stipend if your department uses the dollars, and it's an on-call comp if your department uses time off. Employees do not get a choice. This is not how do you want it this time, whatever your department policy says.
just the comp and then.
Yep.
Anything over is, once they hit 40, anything over goes to pay.
Right, for comp, yep. So on-call comp, you put in the number of hours that they're getting in comp. So it would be 8 hours for on-call comp. If you're doing on-call stipend, you put in the number of days that they actually were on call. So you would put in 7 days if it was a week. The on-call stipend is $25 a day, so when you put in 7, that should be $175.
And then I could just land anywhere in that week, like you picked Thursday or whatever, but is it when the call changes or is it, can I just?
You can
Anywhere.
put it whenever, but just maybe for your own remembering when you go back and look,
Then call switches.
when the call switches, when
Just-
they've completed
yeah.
their time. And I say that because if you do have somebody who's on call and they get a stipend, maybe they're on call for 3 days and they get violently sick and someone else has to change it.
Subs their call.
So then maybe you can only put 3 days of call in and then somebody else gets the other 4.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that's how it works. Also, there's some departments that the way that they did it in the past was they would be on call and they would end on Thursday, and that just meant they got the next Friday off, right? They just wouldn't work the next day.
Right.
You can still do that, but you're gonna have to submit a request for that Friday off.
Look at the 8
using
hours.
Comp time,
Yep.
and you'll have to have them earning the comp time on Thursday.
Sure.
Okay, we just have to document it.
Yeah, because our calls switch on Thursday in the summer and then we switch on Fridays in the winter. Because of the rotating schedule.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so that's how you would enter those in there. And again, you're gonna put that on a separate line if they actually are working that day.
right. If I went ahead and created my midnight to 8 schedules for the people that, like, we know our on-call schedule, right? Till the end of winter season. And I say that they're working midnight to 8. Well, we get a storm where our entire crew goes to working 12-hour shifts. What I know it all pop up with red flags. I could just approve it, or I could also go in and change the schedule to an 8 to 8.
Right? You
Either
can-
or.
You can pull up your crews, you can assign it to one and then copy and paste it down.
To everybody.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, or you can go in and you can assign that shift to one person and you can make it repeat for 4 days. Right? I mean, you can do that same thing. And also when you're in there scheduling, Garrett, I'm gonna leave. Man, there's a glare. It's hard to see over here. When you're managing your schedule, if you want to go in and do that for multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go down. So let's look at our patchers. Let's say you want to go in here and you want to assign these 5 people, check these 5 people, and then go in and add a shift,
Sure.
right? We're gonna do that for 5 selected employees. So you don't have to do one at a time. If you know that group is all gonna work the same thing.
Right. Or I could just select all 2, right?
Yeah,
If I want some under patchers, I could just select.
yep. You can select everybody under patchers. And then you just add whoever you want.
Right. Okay.
Mhm. Okay. They're good questions. You guys, once you get in and you're working on it, it's gonna be learning a new system, just like anything else, but you're gonna get the hang of it and you're probably gonna be teaching me things about it before too long.
And you have Choquette under patch crew and he's not, just so you know.
Okay, sure. So how are we gonna fix it? You tell me what to do. What should I do to fix Mark?
Right click him,
His name?
Right click him, okay, and then what am I gonna do?
add to group,
Okay? Who am I adding him to?
sweeper crew.
Okay? Should I start today? We can start today. You can't really go
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
How long?
forever and ever.
And I'm going to remove him from any other schedules.
Right.
So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna apply it.
Then you need to refresh then?
He's gonna disappear.
Sure.
It's temporarily unavailable. I'm gonna refresh it. And now I'm gonna look down here. There he is.
New sweepers.
Frank Foreman's still there too. Okay.
We'll get rid of Frank Foreman. Okay, so we're gonna remove him forever. And that's exactly, same thing that we did to add him to the group.
Right.
We're just gonna remove him from the group. So goodbye, Frank. Yeah.
Do you have a
Power
question?
that you have, just with the click of a button, somebody's
Right.
gone.
But do I have the power to move people that aren't on my team? Probably not, right?
Into
That would be
your
up to,
team?
no, like what you just did.
Yeah.
You have like full admin stuff.
Yeah,
I have just my team that I can see. So if I notice that he's in like that type of scenario we just did, Mark shows he's on my crew, I probably have to go to Kevin.
Kevin can definitely do that,
to-
right?
To move him over.
We also have the ability of setting it up with employee groups that allow you to see everyone in the street department.
Sure.
We just have to know how you want it set up so we can get those groups set up correctly.
Okay.
Right now, yes, it's defaulted to whoever reports directly to you.
Right.
One of the issues that we've had so far is we're trying to help, those always supervise and train them and such, but as supervisors, we see different screens than they do.
Yep.
And so the question is, can we request HR create us like a dummy account so we can log in as that and see what they see?
Nope.
Okay,
I wish they had that too. We have asked, but that is not something that the system does. We don't have
Is that
dummy accounts.
a feature to like log in as,
Nope,
that would be very helpful.
100% agree. It would have made this whole process a lot easier for
Yeah,
us.
because it's hard to help people when we don't know what their screen is saying.
Yeah, this is different than ours. Someone called me, the one of the mechanics stopped me, he's like, what do I do? I'm like, and this is way different than mine, so
Yeah,
I don't know. I said, go down, bother Monica.
yeah.
Bother Monica. I go by Courtney now.
She's listening.
I know, that's why I use her name. Hey, any other questions today? If you come up with something later, please don't hesitate, give us a call. If you see something that doesn't look right, by all means, let us know. Do our best to work through it together, but I'm really excited about it. I hope you guys seeing it, it makes you feel a little bit better about going forward and it not hopefully being quite as overwhelming as what people have been anticipating.
It's just the employees doing their part is my main concern, but we'll just have to keep tabs on that and make sure.
I can see. The one question that I do have, and it's not going to matter for a while. Come spring. Street department, my department, the water department, between us all, we're gonna have 20 mowers that are gonna be there for 3 months.
Oh.
Are we going to
Yes,
train all of them to this, or are they going to fill out a time card?
no,
Part-timers are ADP too.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a single sign-on, right? So
Sure.
they're already in ADP, which of course it logged me out. They're already in there. They're gonna have to go in there to do all of their paperwork, even as part-time employees. They're gonna have to go in there to view their time cards. All they're really gonna do is click that dashboard and clock in. I mean, it's part-time employees aren't gonna have PTO. They're not gonna be requesting time off from you. So they're not gonna have that to worry about. They're not gonna have, I mean, you can put in a schedule for them, but it's really gonna be, did you come in or didn't you? Because if you didn't, you don't get paid.
You just get paid for the hours you work, yeah.
It's not gonna be
Okay.
overwhelming for them. And, you know, it might be the easiest for them just to use the time clock.
I
But if they
imagine.
don't want to, they can use their phones. Most of those part-timers are just doing their, you know, college kids home for the summer or something anyway, so,
A lot of them, or teachers have the summer off.
great.
It's a lot of them too.
But they all have the ability to use the time clocks.
Well, I was.
We might have to do a little training
Yeah,
thing when we take all those people on, you know.
Yeah.
definitely.
But you know, they're all gonna have to come into HR. That's, your part-time people, we are going forward. They will be terminated at the end of their summer. It's gonna be a great way to remind us to, when they come back, make sure we check that they haven't switched bank accounts. Make sure that we verify if it's somebody, I mean, we have people down here from Canada, make sure that they are eligible to work. Make sure that we're checking all of those things. And when we have them come down, when they fill out the paperwork, we can also show them timekeeping.
It'll be like a full orientation then when they come on. So sort of,
Yeah,
without the benefit stuff, but yeah.
yep. It'll be more than the 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
But won't be a whole lot longer.
You guys are gonna get so much practice. 3, 4, 5 people every week for a couple of months coming and going. You'll be able to just do this in your sleep with a cup of coffee and.
I better have coffee. Well, thank you guys so much for taking time to come in today. And again, all of the detailed information is going to be out here on the ADP user guide. So if you lose this or you just want to look, because we will be making updates sometimes to it, it's always out there on the intranet for you.
Okay.
And we'll put a link on ADP as well, so you can get to it right away. Thank you
Cool.
very much. Bye, everybody.